Hey everybody, Jason from animate here. How's everybody doing? So in this week's snippet, we're going to talk about simplifying your acting. When I first got into animation back in the early 90s, I was a 2D animator, traditional 2D animator, and I always felt like I was over animating everything. I felt like there was a need to pour every single thing that I've ever learned about animation into every single shot. So doing multiple poses, smear frames across poses, a lot of squash and stretch. And it's not that is a bad thing. It's just that it can be over animated, right? So when I'm thinking about simplifying my acting, what I'm trying to think about is story, right? Connecting with your audience, connecting with the acting so that the character's performance is very readable and is very comfortable to watch, right? If you've got a character that's moving around the screen a lot and your audiences are trying to figure out what the character is feeling, it's really difficult because they can't focus on the character, right? So when I'm listening to like a piece of dialogue like this is a super simple shot, but this could be something from a feature film, right?
There's got to be a way to shrink her. Let's go.
So there could be a tendency when I'm animating this shot, there's got to be a way to shrink her. There could be like 4 different poses in there when really there's only 2, right? There's got to be a way to shrink her, right? And if you can figure out a way to keep the character simplified and play the pose, it'll become a lot more readable for the audience, right? So like for this shot, I was thinking about 2 characters. I was thinking about a little girl, and we're kind of looking down on her, and she's sort of looking up like this at an off-screen character, right? And she's trying to figure out like maybe the mom has grown or been blown up, or so that she's like 50 feet tall. And I thought like if I could just get that sort of a feel like she's in charge of trying to figure out how do we get her back to normal, right? So like there might be some intensity in here where, we got the character maybe, with her arms sort of around this area right here, and we could play basically that pose, right? So within that pose, it could be like, there's got to be a way to shrink her, you know, and holding that pose so that we can see the actual facial on the character, right? And I was planning to do this as a 2 character shot, so we'd have like another character here, maybe her younger brother or something like that, and he would be very secondary to the shot, but it might be kind of nice to see him uh, looking at her too, so we can see that the both characters are here, but she's the one that's got to come up with a plan. She's leading the shot, right? So if I think about, let's say it's Bianca from I Animate, right? So it'd be something like this, right? But if I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking about the actual dialogue, let's play it with that.
There's got to be a way to shrink her.
So like there's a nice accent in there that can help with that pose, right? So in there, there's got to be a way to shrink her. So when I'm thinking more like a story artist. I'm thinking more like, okay, this is really just one pose, right? But I'm playing the pose like as an animator. I'm playing the pose. I'm trying to go, and maybe like an anticipation. Maybe we can bring the head down slightly, right? Keep the connection, right? To what she's got to do, right? Keep that connection. But if I think about like the anticipation for here, could be just like a little bit more of a down and the arms coming up. Okay, something like this. And then hit that got to be, right here, got to be. And that could be like the accent, right, to play that pose, right? So in here, we could probably bring the arm down here, really hit the accent. And then when I'm in animation, I can figure out a way to break up the timing so it doesn't all happen at the same time. But what I'm trying to do is solidify the acting a little bit. So in here, like maybe, now that we can really see her eyes, maybe there's a way we can get this this expression maybe down like this, so she's really focusing and concentrating. Got to be. and then bring it up, so it's like she's trying to figure out, she hasn't figured it out yet, you know, but if you get this sort of a feel, we can get that to read.
There's got to be a way to shrink her. Let's
Okay, and then from there,
shrink her. Let's
in this gap right here, there's got to be a way to shrink her. I could have her look towards the other character. In other words, like, let's go, right? So, but like this could be a nice little bridge to get the acting to connect with the other character now as well. So we can see what the character is going to do next or anticipate it. So she could be like this, but still kind of keeping the hands fairly simple. Like she's in that one gesture, that one pose, right? And then she can go.
let's go. Let's
So in here, we could get the anticipation, right? And keep that super simple, but like we could have that happen nice and fast. So we bring that up in silhouette like this. Like, so she's going to grab his arm. Keep this arm a little bit more simplified, so that all the attention goes here, right? And then in here, she could grab and start to run. And start to go this way, right? So you can see how fast I'm kind of figuring this out. Like it's just more of a using this drawing tool as a way to kind of figure out the composition and the actual actions.
There's got to be a way to shrink her. Let's go.
Okay, and then
Let's,
have her
let's go.
have her exit, right? Nice and fast. And within a few minutes, we've got like a good idea of what the shot's actually going to look like. And I like to try to figure out my shots in this simple way, rather than doing it all on one sheet of paper, because I can kind of feel the action happening. I can kind of feel like where the arms are going to go, or where the force is going to be, or where the line of action will be. I don't have to draw a model or anything. It's just more that I want to figure out like how this character is going to act throughout the shot, right? So in here, this will be the other character might be here, right? Just kind of looking at her. So he'd be like here, right? This would be Billy with his arm sort of down, like he hasn't time to react or anything, right? He'll just be like there. And then when she grabs his arm, like it could be like this, a little bit of reaction, like sort of pulling his arm down. Okay, and then we get that force, right? So he'd be kind of being pulled, and maybe he'll go kind of sideways or something. And get pulled right this way, right? So everything's sort of going that way. And maybe during this, like we can maybe see like his leg up in the air or something like that. And this is the way I like to figure out shots, like super simple, right? Trying to keep everything. So in here, not sure what his expression would be. Maybe somewhat surprised, something like this, and then have him exit out, right? So he'd be like, whoa, and just sort of hopping up and down as he goes out. Okay, and then we can add in a blank frame there. Control B. All right, so let's feel it.
There's got to be a way to shrink her. Let's go. There's got to be a way to shrink her. Let's go. There's got to be a way to shrink her. Let's go. There's got to be a way to shrink her.
Right. And then during this, I'd shrink her, I wouldn't actually do like a whole different pose for that. It'd be like, there's got to be a way to shrink her. It might be just like a head nod or something in there. But this way we keep everything very, very solidified, very simple. That way we can see the character's expressions change. We can see the thought that's going through her head. We can see that there's some tension in there because the body's kind of in that pose. And then from here, what I like to do is shoot some live action reference. And that way I can feel what happens naturally, rather than just saying, I know how the body's going to move. But this way I can get a clear idea of what I want to do in the actual shot, composition wise, performance wise, and then I'll shoot some live action reference to help me get a more organic performance. And then use a combination of the two when I'm inside Maya, right? So like within a few minutes, I can figure out exactly what I want to do with the shot. So the rule for today is keep it super simple.